Norris was rushed to a hospital in Hawaii, where he lived on the island of Kauai with an undisclosed health emergency. Reports say he was in good spirits, even.
They say death was afraid of Chuck Norris. The internet made it a joke. But on March 19, 2026, death finally showed up, and this time, it didn't flinch. The world woke up on March 20th to a statement on Instagram that nobody was ready for. His family wrote, "It is with heavy hearts that our family shares the sudden passing of our beloved Chuck Norris." No cause, no details, just the quiet, devastating confirmation that the man who the internet had declared immortal was gone. 4 years, Chuck Norris facts had been the internet's favorite joke. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth down. When Chuck Norris enters a room, he doesn't turn the lights on, he turns the dark off. These weren't just memes. They were a cultural institution. A 2000s-era phenomenon that never really died, because Chuck Norris never seemed like someone who could. Even soldiers stationed in Iraq and Afghanistan had created their own Chuck Norris facts, turning a shy Oklahoma boy into something close to mythology. But behind that mythology was a man. A complicated, quietly suffering, deeply devoted man. And the truth of who he really was, the truth his body had been keeping secret for decades, is far more remarkable, and far more disturbing, than any meme ever captured. Before the legend, before the roundhouse kicks, before Hollywood ever knew his name, Chuck Norris was just a quiet boy from a tiny town called Ryan, Oklahoma. Born on March 10, 1940, his real name was Carlos Ray Norris, and nothing about his early life suggested greatness. He wasn't strong. He wasn't confident. He was the opposite. Chuck was painfully shy, so shy that when a teacher asked him to recite something aloud in class, he would simply shake his head no. He had a stutter. He didn't play sports. Other kids saw him as weak, and sometimes, they treated him that way. But the hardest part of his childhood wasn't school. It was home. His father struggled with alcohol, and when he drank, things could get unpredictable. Chuck later shared that there were times he would hide, just waiting for things to calm down. That kind of fear doesn't leave you easily. His mother, Wilma, part Irish, part Cherokee, carried a quiet kind of toughness that Chuck would spend his entire life trying to match. When Chuck was 16, his parents divorced, and everything changed. His mother moved the family to California, hoping for a better life. Then came the military. In 1958, Chuck joined the United States Air Force. He was sent to South Korea as an air policeman, and it was there, far from everything he knew, that he found something that would rewrite his entire story: martial arts. A local instructor introduced him to Tang Soo Do, a Korean fighting style built on discipline, control, and power. Something clicked. For the first time in his life, he found something he could commit to completely. He trained not for fame, but to become stronger than the boy who used to hide. It was also in Korea that Carlos became Chuck. A name easier for everyone to say. But it wasn't just a name change, it was the beginning of a new identity entirely. By 1962, when he left the Air Force, Chuck had a black belt, a rebuilt sense of self, and a burning purpose. Back in California, he balanced a job at Northrop Aviation with opening his first karate school. He entered tournaments. He lost. More than once. But for Chuck, losing never meant stopping. It meant improving. By 1967, he became the All-American Karate Champion. For 6 straight years, he remained undefeated as the middleweight karate champion. In 1969, he won the Triple Crown of Karate and was named Black Belt Magazine's Fighter of the Year. Celebrities came to him for training: Steve McQueen, Bob Barker, and others. There's a famous story about Chuck accidentally breaking Bob Barker's ribs during practice. That tells you everything about the intensity he carried into every session. Then came the grief. In 1970, his younger brother Wieland, also in the Air Force, was killed in Vietnam. It was a loss that shaped everything that followed. He dedicated several of his war-themed films to Wieland, turning that pain into something that could outlast it. The shy kid who once hid from his father's anger had become the man who taught Hollywood how to fight. Chuck Norris's life changed forever in 1972 when Bruce Lee, already a global phenomenon, cast him as the villain in The Way of the Dragon. A 10-minute Coliseum showdown. Two of the most dangerous men alive, on camera, holding almost nothing back. The fight became iconic. Every kick, every punch, every second designed for maximum impact. And despite being the antagonist, Chuck and Bruce became genuine friends. Bruce pushed him, challenged him, and taught him how to channel intensity through a camera lens. The film grossed over $130 million worldwide. Chuck's name was suddenly everywhere. Hollywood came knocking quickly. Breaker introduced him as a modern action hero. Good Guys Wear Black earned an astonishing 18 times its budget. Then the 1980s arrived, and with them, Chuck's true explosion. The Missing in Action trilogy was more than action films. They were personal. Chuck played Colonel James Braddock, rescuing POWs trapped behind enemy lines. For Chuck, it wasn't just a role. It was a tribute to Wieland. The emotional weight underneath those fight sequences gave them something rare: heart. Then came Code of Silence, the Delta Force, and Cannon Films signing him for paydays that reflected his growing status as America's most bankable action star. What separated Chuck from everyone else was simple. He was real. No wires. No stunt doubles for the dangerous work. Every spin kick, every block, every punch came with actual force. On set, broken ribs and strained joints were not uncommon. But the pain was private. The performance was public. Co-stars noticed. Crew members noticed. Extras sometimes nursed bruises they hadn't expected. And yet the myth of invincibility only grew stronger. What the myth didn't show was what was being written into his body. Silently, invisibly, with every impact, every stunt, every fall. In 1993, CBS launched Walker, Texas Ranger, and Chuck Norris became something entirely new. A television institution. As Cordell Walker, a modern Texas Ranger dispensing justice through martial arts and moral clarity, Chuck wasn't just playing a character. He was expressing himself. The roundhouses were real. The values, honesty, courage, respect, were his own. The show ran 8 seasons, produced 203 episodes, and peaked in the top 20 nationwide. Its motto, "One Riot, One Ranger," wasn't just a tagline. It was a philosophy. Parents watched it with their children. Children grew up wanting to take karate because of it. Syndication spread the show worldwide, cementing Chuck's status as an international symbol of justice and discipline. Even after the show ended in 2001, Chuck never truly stepped away. In 2012, he appeared in The Expendables 2 alongside Sylvester Stallone, who later said, "He was all-American in every way." Great man. There's a memorable story Chuck shared about being bitten by a cobra during production. 5 days of intense pain. The cobra, reportedly, did not survive. In 2020, he appeared in the finale of Hawaii 5-0, proving that well into his 80s, he remained a force impossible to ignore. And then there were the memes. Chuck Norris facts, the internet's earliest viral phenomenon, never really died. They had exploded in the early 2000s when a Brown University student began circulating absurd, hyperbolic facts about him via email. Chuck later told Time magazine, "I figured they'd just last a couple weeks. It amazes me this has gone on for so long." His personal favorite, they wanted to put Chuck Norris on Mt. Rushmore, but the granite wasn't tough enough for his beard. Even as recently as March 10, 2026, his 86th birthday, Chuck posted a video on social media, sparring with a partner in Hawaii, declaring, "I don't age. I level up." The internet exploded. The memes flooded back. Nobody suspected that just 9 days later, those would be some of his final public words. Behind the roundhouse kicks and the viral legend was a man the cameras rarely captured. A private father, a devoted husband, and a man of deep, unshakable faith. Chuck married his high school sweetheart, Diane, in 1958. They had 2 sons, Mike and Eric. But Chuck's personal life carried its own complexities. In 2001, it was revealed that he had a daughter, Dina, from an earlier relationship, kept private for decades. After divorcing Diane in 1989, he remarried in 1998, this time to Gina O'Kelly. They had twins, Dakota and Danny Lee, born in 2001. Over the years, the family grew to include 13 grandchildren. In his later years, Chuck had experienced fresh grief. His mother Wilma, the quiet Cherokee Irish woman who had been his earliest model of strength, passed away in 2024. Then his first wife Diane died in December 2025. 2 losses, close together, in the final chapter of his life. The family settled on a 700-acre ranch in Texas. Chuck ran Seaforce Bottling, a spring water brand drawn from his own aquifer, blending ranching, business, and family life with the same discipline that had defined his martial arts career. Faith was never decoration for Chuck. He was a devout Southern Baptist, active at Prestonwood Church. Christianity didn't just sit beside his life, it ran through it. He practiced a personal mantra: I will develop myself to the maximum of my ability. Through books like Black Belt Patriotism, he shared lessons not just in technique, but in character, ethics, and the kind of strength that doesn't show up on a film reel. In 1990, he founded Kickstart Kids, a program teaching martial arts to at-risk youth, not to create fighters, but to build discipline, focus, and self-worth in children who might otherwise lack anyone to believe in them. It was the shy Oklahoma boy, transformed and paying it forward. Veterans' causes held a special place too, always connected to Wieland, always personal. Even his commercial work, Total Gym infomercials, fitness promotions, carried the same message underneath. Discipline and effort matter more than shortcuts. Always. On March 10, 2026, Chuck Norris turned 86 in Hawaii. He posted that birthday video, sparring, smiling, declaring he only leveled up. The internet celebrated. The memes returned. Nobody saw what was coming. Just days later, on March 18, sources reported he had been working out with friends in Kauai, teaching moves, sharing stories, moving with the kind of precision that made people forget his age entirely. He was upbeat, jovial, present. That night, everything changed. Chuck experienced a sudden medical emergency that shocked those closest to him. Within hours, he was hospitalized. The family, true to his lifelong instinct for privacy, released no details.